Thank you, Mayor Mazza, and thank you to the council. I'm here presenting on Voting Solutions for All People. I'm Jeff Klein. I'm with the LA County Registrar's Office. I'm the manager of Civic Engagement for the county. So I'm happy to walk through the high points of the project and all the different changes that voters will expect for the March election. And then if you have any questions, happy to answer any questions you might have about the project or about the elections in general. So we call it Voting Solutions for All People, VSAP for short, since saying Voting Solutions for All People is kind of a mouthful to say over and over, so we call it VSAP for short. And really my purpose of being here today is not just to educate the public and educate people of Alhambra, but also to let you know that we're happy to partner with any organizations, whether city organizations or community organizations or key individuals in throughout the community, should anyone want to get additional presentations or materials with us. So we call it a new voter experience, and it's a number of different changes. So it's not just a new voting device, not just a new voting period, but there's a whole bunch of changes. So I'll go through a high-level overview of those changes. I have a few more slides where I get into some details, and then if you have any questions, happy to get into that. The first change is the electronic poll book. I think whether you're not a vote-by-mail voter or whether you vote in person, this is probably familiar. Right now, when you go into a polling place, or in the past, when you've gone into a polling place, there's a paper booklet. You give your name and an address, and the poll worker would look the voter up, and then the voter would sign in the booklet. The paper booklet is being replaced by an electronic roster, and the purpose of the electronic roster primarily is so we can look up voters regardless of where they go in LA County. Under our new model, you can now vote anywhere in LA County. You'll no longer be assigned to one specific location, and so any vote center around the county will have this electronic check-in, and voters will still give their name and address and will sign on the electronic poll book. It also allows us to do something called conditional voter registration. Conditional voter registration allows individuals to register to vote up to and on election day. It is a conditional ballot, so we have to clear the individual's voter registration before we can count their ballot, so that may be able to be done on election day or whenever they show up to vote in person, or may be done right after election day. Conditional voter registration also lets individuals update their address, and you can change your political party registration. So anything you can do with the voter registration process, you can do in person at a vote center. The really great thing about conditional voter registration, especially for the March presidential primary election, is there's always a little confusion with voters on who they're eligible to vote for president, which party they're registered to. Changes every election. So the conditional voter registration process will allow voters to change their registration if the candidate they're looking to vote for is not for the party that they're originally registered to. A few other things we can do with the electronic poll book: we can cancel a voter's vote by mail ballot. Previously, if a voter showed up and they did not have their vote by mail ballot, they would have to vote provisionally. We're now able to look into our system and see if they've returned that vote by mail ballot or not. If they haven't, we would go ahead and suspend that ballot and issue that voter a regular ballot. And then any kind of administrative issues that come up, there's always been little issues here and there, some maybe not so little issues in the past. We now have a lot more control over our administrative process. So the electronic poll book really improves service to the voters, helps us manage the data a lot better. The modern tally system, this is more on the administrative side. It allows us to do more efficient recounts, more efficient audits. But the main reason for putting it in this presentation, and what voters need to know and the public needs to know, is it's still a paper ballot. We do count the ballots. We do tabulate the election and tally the election off the paper ballots. Those will be run through our modern tally system. And we have a new tally center in Downey, and it is open to the public if anyone is interested in coming down and watching us tally the votes. Moving on, the interactive sample ballot. We have a new service. We call it ISB for short. This is an optional service. So I think we're all familiar. We get a sample ballot in the mail. It's a paper booklet that tells us who we're eligible to vote for. And all voters will still get that sample ballot booklet. But starting this election, voters will have the option to go to a link on our website, bring up an electronic version of this that you can interact with. You make all your selections ahead of time, and then when you check in at the vote center, you receive your paper ballot. You insert that into the ballot marking device, and then you scan something called a poll pass. It's a QR code generated through the interactive sample ballot. You scan that, and it instantly transfers your selections over to the ballot marking device. As you're aware, the The 2020 election will be the first election where most of the cities have consolidated over and are combined with the presidential election. The great thing about the interactive sample ballot, this allows voters to go through their very long ballot and mark everything ahead of time, and then they can be in and out of voting in less than 10 minutes. The ballot, one thing I want to add about the interactive sample ballot, the poll pass, the QR code that's generated, there's no personal information on that. So it's not tied to the voter. It's an electronic version of your booklet. If a voter lost that or someone got a hold of it, they can't find out who that voter is, and they can't take your vote or anything like that. Okay, the ballot marking device, there's a picture from the top down, and I don't know if anyone's had a chance to try out the ballot marking device, but it is a very robust device we use to serve all voters. It actually just got certified on Friday, so we're very excited about that. The state approved it. The one thing to know, again, it is a paper-based system. It's not electronic voting. Nothing is retained inside the device. There's no internet connection, no Wi-Fi, no network connectivity. It simply has a power cord and you plug it into the wall. You can actually think about it as a giant printer. Voters stick in their paper ballot, make their selections by touching the touch screen or scanning the poll pass, and then everything is printed directly onto the ballot. And when you cast your vote, it goes back into the ballot marking device. There's a ballot box attached to it. We can serve voters in all languages that we provide services to voters in LA County. So that's English plus 12 languages. Also, we have audio feature available. If someone is visually impaired, they can listen to their ballot and make all of their selections. You can even do things like plug in a sip and puff device if that's something that a voter would like to use. So very comprehensive. It's designed with the idea that if the voter with the highest level of assistance can use it, that means all of us can use it. So it's really the essence of voting solutions for all people, one system that all people can use in LA County. These will be stationed at all vote centers throughout LA County. I'll talk a little bit more about the placement of the number of ballot marking devices that we place throughout vote centers. I'll discuss that a little bit later on. The voting period and vote centers, these go together. So starting this election, voters will have the ability to vote over an 11-day period of time. Starting February 22nd is when vote centers will open, so voters can cast their ballot in person starting February 22nd. And we'll have 250 vote centers around LA County. For the last 4 days of the election, we'll have 1,000 vote centers. So that's Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and election day. And voters can go to any of those locations. So for example, if someone happened to be here in Alhambra for a meeting, and then before they head back home and there's a vote center maybe here or nearby, they could go ahead and cast their ballot before heading home wherever they live. So we're really excited about this. This gives voters a lot more flexibility. It really mirrors our mobile society, and it gives voters a lot more options than having to wait till one day and one location to vote. And the last item I want to mention here is the new vote-by-mail ballot. It's actually the same vote-by-mail ballot we rolled out in 2018. We say new because there's actually some enhancements beyond the intuitive aspect of the vote-by-mail ballot, which we previewed in 2018. Voters will now have the ability to return their ballot at a VBM drop box location. We'll have 200 vote-by-mail drop boxes all over LA County, and voters can drop their ballot off at those drop boxes. You can also return your ballot by mail. It is postage paid, and you can walk it into a vote center, any of the 1,000 vote centers. So I do have a video I'm going to play that will recap what I discussed.
The election is just around the corner, and Los Angeles County has a new way for voters to make their voices heard. New Los Angeles County vote centers are located throughout the county. Cast your ballot near your home, work, or favorite park. Voters can go anywhere. To find a vote center that's convenient, visit lavote.net and find one that works best for you. Instead of waiting for one day to vote, you are now able to vote across 11 days. Once you've arrived, a vote center assistant will greet you and check you in before taking you to the ballot marking device. Did you know that there is a new interactive sample ballot that lets you pre-mark your selections online and generate a poll pass? A unique QR code that will let you quickly transfer, review, and cast your selections on a paper ballot at the County Vote Center. The new ballot marking device includes an audio ballot, a touch screen, and a tactile keypad to make voting faster and more accessible. You can also select your language, change the font size, and adjust the contrast for easy viewing. Then, after you make your selections or scan your poll pass, you can review your ballot to verify your choices and cast your ballot by feeding the paper ballot back into the ballot marking device. There's no need to give your ballot to a vote center assistant. You cast it on the same device. Welcome to the future of voting in Los Angeles County. Fast, convenient, and easy. Go to vsap.lavote.net to exercise your right to vote and let your voice be heard.
Okay, so that's an overview of what I just discussed. Everything you see here, that video, this presentation, we have a lot of other materials and videos. Everything's available to the public, so if anyone's interested in these items and they want to share them, we would really encourage that. A little more about vote by mail. There's a picture of what the vote by mail ballot looks like. So you will still get a vote by mail ballot if that's how you prefer to vote. Anyone who is a permanent vote by mail voter will still get mailed their ballot, and you can still request one as well. You mark directly on the ballot itself, no more matching the number from the booklet to the little Scantron card. We did away with that, and so it's very intuitive, very straightforward. Again, you mark your ballot, when you send your ballot back, you send it by mail, postage paid, or you can walk it into a vote center, or you can drop it off at one of our VBM Dropbox locations. A little more on vote centers. On the left is the layout of the typical vote center. We will have three sizes of vote centers. We'll have large, medium, and small. The large vote centers will have 50 ballot marking devices. The medium will have about 25 to 30, and the small will have about 10 to 15 ballot marking devices. They'll be fully staffed. When voters arrive, there will be someone there to greet them. Everyone will be trained, more extensive training than we've done in the past. They will be assisted with the lookup, and we'll even have staff there to assist people with getting started on the ballot marking device if they feel, if voters feel uncomfortable with some of the new technology that we have there. But again, very straightforward, very streamlined, and if you went to our mock election, you might have experienced some of this very similar to what you would have seen during that mock election. In the middle are some high points that we really tried to stress, and if people don't remember anything about my presentation today except for the points in the middle, that's great, because these are the most important points about vote centers. So voters can go to any vote center around LA County. As mentioned, we look up voters via our electronic poll book, and we'll also update our records in real time. This prevents someone going from one vote center to the next vote center to the next voter center, driving around for the day trying to cast ballots. We'll update our records real time, so we'll know if someone has voted. We'll also be able to know, as mentioned, if you've returned your vote by mail ballot or not. Everything is fully accessible, not just the voting equipment, but also the facility. Accessibility is one of our big features that we always look at, and we examine and research carefully before selecting vote center locations. And 11 days total for voting. February 22nd would be the first day of voting. And then on the right, there's a picture of the poll pad, just in case you were interested in seeing what it looked like. Very straightforward. It looks like a iPad or a tablet. Again, it'll be staffed, and someone will look up the voter. But voters do sign directly onto the pad itself. Data's been a big part of this project. We've started this project in 2009. It was based on data provided to us by MIT and Caltech. And they studied the 2000 election, which, as many people may have heard, had some issues with people voting and some usability and just how people interact with the election, not even discussing the political side of that, just the administrative side. And so they looked at how to improve the voting experience, and that led to a number of legal changes here in California to improve that experience. But it also led LA County to make a number of changes, such as what we did in terms of our voting device. Recently, some of the data that we've looked at is why people don't vote. We did a focus group recently, and I don't think any of these reasons are going to surprise anyone, but the number one reason people say is they were too busy on election day. The next one was the election wasn't important. After that, they forgot about the election. They were unable to get out of work in time. They went out of town, and so on and so forth. Under the vote center model, all these reasons go away, except the second one where it says the election wasn't important. But that's where we all can come into play, talking to our friends and neighbors and encouraging people to get out to vote. But the idea of the vote center model, which is made possible by the California Voters' Choice Act, is really to increase turnout. Research shows that having a period of voting rather than maybe turning election day into a holiday, although that would be a nice symbolic gesture, or maybe making election day on the weekend, if you give voters a period where they can vote at when they want, where they want, that really will be what leads to higher turnout. So we're pretty excited about this election. Hopefully more people will take the opportunity to come out and vote, and they won't find as many barriers to voting. On the right are the locations where people have said that they would like to vote. So when you ask a voter, what is where would you like to vote? What's the best location that you've had? They think back to where they generally voted and when they had a good experience. So that's why you see libraries are number one, elementary school or high school, middle school, the number two, and so on and so forth. Most of our vote centers will mirror what you see up here, but over time you might see some changes as people start getting used to the vote center model. The California Voters' Choice Act is based off of a lot of what they do in Colorado and Nevada. Those two states are vote center states. In Nevada, they use shopping malls for a lot of their vote centers. They still have city halls and libraries and schools, but they use shopping malls because it's a win-win for everyone. Voters like it because they go out to run errands and they can cast their ballot while they're out and about. The shopping mall likes it because it means business for that mall and foot traffic. And then the county likes it because they get a free space, and anytime the county gets something for free, we like that. So, you might see some changes over time, but for now it'll be more traditional locations. A little more about the interactive sample ballot. Again, you make your selections either on your mobile device or you can do it on your home computer. You print out a poll pass. And then you walk over to the ballot marking device after you've gotten your ballot and you've inserted the ballot, you scan it and it instantly transfers your selections. And again, you still have to confirm, you still have to print, and you still have to cast your ballot. You can make changes, you don't even have to use the poll pass, but it's an option to expedite your voting experience. Ballot marking device, a little more about it. On the left, you can see the ballot box attached to the back of the ballot marking device. We call that the integrated ballot box. Those will come back to our office every night. We're not leaving voted ballots unattended overnight. There's a security process and a chain of custody process for that. But all the ballots will come back, and we'll replace that canister every time we remove it. In the middle, you can see how the legs are wider. That allows someone in a wheelchair who maybe needs to sit down and get up close to the ballot marking device. They can get up close. The screen actually tilts straight up and down, so it's easy to use. And on the right, you could see the picture with the paper ballot sticking out of it. We just like to constantly emphasize the point that it is a paper-based system. It's very easy to use, very intuitive. This was during our mock election. Anyone could come out. So the person on the left is 5 years old. They came out and voted. We won't be letting 5-year-olds vote in the real election, though, just so everyone knows. But that 5-year-old can use it. And then at the picture on the right, the other end of the age spectrum, I promised I wouldn't reveal her age if she'd let me use her picture. So anyone can use it. It's built very intuitively and so people who aren't good with technology so they can use it. I like to say if you can at least use an ATM machine, you can definitely use this ballot marking device. It also assists voters regardless of their accessibility or their level of need. So on the left, you can see someone using the headset. They initiated the audio portion themselves. They might need it for language assistance, or they might need it if they're visually impaired. In the middle is an individual using the ballot marking device. So one of the comments we hear from our disability rights advocates is that there's a lot of people with disabilities and they might have a hidden disability and they feel uncomfortable talking about their disability when they arrive at a polling place or a vote center. The great thing about the ballot marking device is you don't have to tell anyone if you have a disability or not. You can just walk over and access the accessibility features without revealing that to anyone. So it is a big win for the disability rights community, who are very excited about that. And on the right is someone in a wheelchair who's able to mark their ballot. As you can see, due to the legs being wider, you can get up close to the ballot marking device. Okay, the final slide before I do some questions. One comment I hear a lot is, we are changing so much about the voting process. How are we really going to know what to do? But we're really not changing the process. What we're changing is how you interact with the process and improving that. So step 1 is you have to arrive at the vote center, which is just like before you had to arrive at a polling place. Step 2, you get checked in. Before it was a paper roster, now it's an electronic roster. Step 3, you get your paper ballot. Before it was a little Scantron card, now it's a full sheet paper ballot. Step 4, you walk over to the ballot marking device, you insert the paper ballot, just like you did with InkaVote, but now it's a different device. Step 5, you make your selections. Either you have your poll pass or you make the selections by touching the screen. You still review, you have to print, and then cast your ballot. And then the final step is you get your I voted sticker. So pretty straightforward, pretty streamlined, and we're pretty excited to be rolling this out very soon. So, any questions about the process or the equipment? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Klein.